I want to share with you the greatest platformer game I have ever played. It's called Abe's Oddysee. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Tails, baby, what do you mean there's a better platformer than Mario? Mario's the shit, man! And look, it may be that Super Mario Bros. 2 is one of the greatest 2D side-scrolling games of all time, but I'm telling you, I have never, in all my life, played a game like Abe. For anyone that grew up in the PlayStation 1 era, we all know this game, but it's dawned on me that there's a whole new generation of people who've probably never ever heard of Abe. So I think it's time to do my public service and educate the youth on something very spectacular. This little blue guy is Abe, and he's the star of a series of games called Oddworld. Specifically, Oddworld Abe's Oddysee and Abe's Exodus. The Oddworld universe is the creation of Lorne, and to me he's kind of a creative genius. Prior to working on Oddworld, Lorne worked within computer animation and film, and both these interests collide to give us what is Abe's Oddysee. Oddworld is exactly what it says on the tin, a world of complete oddities. It's a dystopian, Orwellian kind of place. It's not dissimilar from our own societies. You could easily imagine it on a planet somewhere out in space. There's many themes that the Oddworld series touches on, such as corporate greed, social class, environmentalism, indigenous people and their lands. Even almost 30 years after its release, the political and social messages feel even more relevant today. Not all of the games in the Oddworld series feature Abe as the main protagonist, but in my mind, the games that stick out the most are those that have Abe as the forefront character. And for me, if there was ever a mascot for PlayStation, it's not Crash, it's Abe. Everyone who had a PlayStation will know Abe, but with games that are complete classics from a decades-old era, the reason for their success could easily be seen as these were the early days of PlayStation. But I still think it's totally an underrated game, because most of the praise I have seen for the game is along the lines of its cinematic qualities and usage of computer-generated graphics. And I'm not denying this, but there is so much more that contributes to why the Abe games was such a success that it would be a disservice to the art form not to acknowledge its other distinct qualities. Our little blue darling works at a gigantic meat processing plant called Rupture Farms.
This is Rupture Farms. They say it's the biggest meat processing plant on Oddworld.
Abe believes he's got a pretty sweet job, but in reality, he's a slave. Abe is a Mudokon, a working class of creatures that do the hard, grueling labour to keep Rupture Farms operating. Those at the top of the social hierarchy in Oddworld are the Gluckons, and one of these is Abe's boss.
Mullet the Gluckin.
In the opening, Abe tells us what got him into his sticky situation. He was working late one night and overhears a boardroom meeting of the Gluckons.
Profits were grim. Hermites and scrabs had been turning up thin. But Mullet was cool. He had a plan. This new kind of meat. It was us! I just had to escape. I just had to be free. And I didn't even know I had a destiny. So, get me out of here!
When we take control of Abe, we have to escape Rupture Farms. In this section, it's really a matter of getting familiar with the way Abe controls. Abe can walk, run, sneak, jump, grab ledges and pull himself up. When you start out, the controls will probably feel a little alien, but very soon you'll get the hang of them. I can honestly say that I've never played a platformer that controls as well as Abe. The controls are really tight, everything is so precise. Pulling off a successful run and jump to pull yourself up a ledge and escape a slig chasing you is so satisfying that I honestly haven't seen this replicated in any game. The reason the controls work so well is because there's a grid-like system. When you're first playing through Abe, you'll probably never even think of this. But about 20 years into playing it, I realized how movement works. You can think of each screen as being cut up into smaller segments with vertical lines. You can move Abe freely, but when he stops he will always be locked into one of these thin segments. This is why the controls are so tight and so reliable. As long as you generally know the distance you need to be away from a ledge, you will always catch the ledge. When you're running with Abe and change direction, he will slide for a few frames. It helps add weight to the way Abe controls and feels great. The most reliable form of movement is rolling. If you roll as Abe, you can still move as fast as you do when you're running, but you're able to stop dead center to where you want, and honestly, it feels great. Throughout the game, your objective is to escape Rupture Farms, and in the process, Abe will discover his destiny. Here's where the brilliance of Oddworld begins. You see, I wanted to say that your objective is to save your Mudokon buddies, but in reality, the game doesn't force this upon you. But saving them is a completely separate task in itself. If you're really sick and twisted, you can even lead them to their deaths, but I've never done that. It's up to you to decide how you want to play the game. You can either save your own skin and say fuck them, or you can help stop your buddies being grounded down into meat. Here's where the game's design presents its brilliance. Because you can decide which Mudokons you will save, the player decides how difficult they will allow the game to be. There are some sections of the game where saving Mudokons is really fucking hard, and requires some really tight platforming and control, but it's entirely possible to just say fuck this shit and let them die, if it's just too much for you. The only way you are technically penalised is the ending you get depends on whether you save enough Mudokons, but this is completely left up to you as to which ones you save and don't. In order to save our Mudokon friends, Abe needs to interact with them through a system called GameSpeak. Sligs have their own GameSpeak where they can interact with other Sligs and give commands. A Mudokon will stay focused on his duties no matter what command gives him, unless the conversation opens up with hello.
Follow me. Hello. Follow me. Okay.
And honestly, when was the last time you said hello to a stranger? You should probably go outside, like I should. Now you can issue commands to follow and wait. It's a fantastic system to get you emotionally attached to Mudokons and make them feel more than just an NPC. The interactions you can have with them, like when they see you run into a wall or laugh when you fart, really gives them character. Oh yeah, you can fart in this game. In order to save a Mudokon, Abe needs to open up a bird portal by chanting, in which time our green homies will jump through and escape. Abe also has his own portals, and he can travel through these to secret segments of the game. To tell the different bird portals apart, Abe's bird portals rotate compared to the normal Mudokon bird portals. This took me 2 decades to work out. Abe has no means to defend himself, and everything kills him in one hit. He'll be gunned down by Sligs if spotted. A Slig is a creature, one half flesh, one half mechanized. In fact, without the mechanical parts, they're useless. They are the lackeys of the Glukkons and are out to kill Abe. Abe's inability to attack really reflects the fact that Mudokons are not creatures of aggression. In fact, they're the opposite. As we find out later in the game, their nature is peaceful, and this is reflected in the fact that Abe cannot do shit to protect himself. Okay, so there are bombs in the game, but even these, if you hold on to them for too long, you'll blow yourself up. So clearly a Mudokon is not built for combat. The one thing that Abe does have, however, is the ability to possess. Abe can possess the minds of Sligs by chanting, and once possessed, we are able to use their machine guns to shoot enemies. The sound that is made when a Slig is possessed is possibly one of the greatest sounds in all of gaming history. You may be wondering then, why don't Mudokons just chant and control the Sligs to escape? Well, they assume this is the way life is, because they've been slaves for so long they've forgotten any other life. And also there's machines that zap Mudokons when they're chanting to keep them suppressed. Even when shooting as a Slig, it isn't appropriate to call this combat. The purpose of possession and killing hostile enemies is just a way to solve a puzzle. The entirety of Abe's Oddysee consists of segments which, in order to progress in the game, they must be solved. It's not the same as a Mario game, for instance, where you need to go from the start to the flagpole, usually left to right. Instead, you need to utilize the mechanics within the game, like possession, bombs, movement, sneak-in, and all of it, to navigate and solve these levels. It is for this reason that progressing in Abe's Oddysee is so satisfying, as you are solving small puzzles constantly just to progress the game. In order to solve a segment, you need to pull off skillful and precise movement. This intertwining of mechanical dexterity in controlling Abe and puzzle solving abilities is something that I've never seen in a game to this day, and is one of the main reasons that I love this game. It's so much deeper than you ever realise in so many ways. Rupture Farms is really quite a sickening place, and a lot of the art direction is based around slaughterhouses. You really get immersed in the factory by lots of subtle details, like bloodstains on machinery, pre-rendered backgrounds, which are usually animated, and the cinematic quality of the game really makes you feel like you're playing a game within a movie. Something the game does incredibly is that when you're playing, it feels like a very dynamic game. But if you're just a person watching, it feels like watching a movie. To escape Rupture Farms, we need to navigate each screen and take care of any obstacles in our way. Some of these are sligs, meat carcasses falling from the roof, and electric fields. There's also these bombs that can be disarmed when they go green. You need to time it correctly as it's always on a repeating pattern. If you escape the farm without saving all 28 Mudokons in the segment, they'll die, and the only way to reattempt saving them is on your next playthrough. Abe barely manages to escape the factory, and now we need to make our way through the stockyards. The stockyards is our first time of seeing the outdoors of Oddworld, and the design in the backgrounds make it look like a really beautiful place. There's the old enemies like sligs, but there are also new ones like slogs, a dog-like creature that obey sligs. We also get to see scrabs for the first time in this section. They're patrolling the cages in the stockyards, waiting to be slaughtered and made into scrab cakes. There's also these motion sensors that detect Abe when moving and will trigger a bomb to kill him. The atmosphere of the stockyard is really juxtaposed, but throughout the area we can see dead Mudokons caught up in barbed wire as they attempted to make their escapes. Eventually we make it all the way to the end of the stockyard where we see a moon indented in a familiar shape. Here's where Abe's spiritual awakening happens.
And its face was my paw. Then I fell down a cliff.
Abe falls down the cliff and fucking dies. He's revived by Big Face, a Mudokon shaman. He tells Abe how the wild creatures of Oddworld, like the scrabs and paramites, were once sacred creatures. They roamed the planet freely before they were made into meat products by Rupture Farms. It's now Abe's task to navigate his way to the Mosaic Lines, where he will find his way to the scrab and paramite temples. The environment is strange, but it's where the Mudokons chant and live in harmony with the land. We're given the choice to travel to Scarabania or Paramonia. It doesn't matter which order you choose, as both these temples need to be completed in order to continue in the game. Paramonia is a beautiful forest-like place with a cool climate. It is populated with creatures called paramites. Paramites are spider-like creatures that make webs, and they can descend from them. On their own, they aren't hostile to Abe. They'll only try to kill Abe if they're backed into a corner, or if they're in a group of 2 or more. Scarabania, on the other hand, is desolate and rocky with the sun beating down on it. Scrabs are the opposite of paramites. On their own, they will chase down and hunt Abe for food. They're extremely territorial, and when 2 meet, they'll duel to the death. This often works out well for the puzzle-like nature of the game, as it gives the player a few extra seconds to escape an intense chase sequence. In order to make it to the temple, we need to solve lots of sections and seek the help of our bloody Elum. Elum is rideable by Abe, and is a lot faster, so he can clear jumps Abe otherwise couldn't. One of the things that's really cool about Elum and the other creatures in the game is that the developers modeled these creatures with 3D sculptures in the real world to see how things like weight would be distributed, and it gives an extra level of realness to the characters in Oddworld. Elum loves honey, but fucking hates bees. We will oftentimes find he no longer obeys us because he's too fat and distracted from eating honey. The only way to get him to obey us again is to get the bees on him. After the introductory segments of each location, we reach their respective temples. The temples have chambers, and each chamber must be completed by lighting the fire in them. These chambers are based around all the mechanics we have previously encountered, and are heavily based around the wildlife creatures found in each area. After completing both temples, we are given a hand scar on each hand by Big Face. Once both scars are obtained, we are then given the ability to summon the Mudokon god, Shrikul. We're only given this ability at certain times in the game, like saving a certain amount of Mudokons at certain bird portals. It grants complete immunity to damage and destroys every enemy, bomb and chant disruptor on the screen. It's now time to make it back to the stockyards and into Rupture Farms to shut down the place for good. The security in both these areas have been completely heightened as the Gluckons realise the danger that Abe poses. There are more sligs, chant disruptors and mines than ever before. In Rupture Farms, there are lots of Mudokons that we need to save, and we are now able to access a previously inaccessible part of the game in the opening, the Zulags. Obviously a play on words with gulag. Every single mechanic we have experienced in the game comes together now, and we must make use of everything we have learned to solve each stage. We need to save the Mudokons and put an end to Rupture Farms. We make it all the way to Moloch's chamber where he has spied on Abe and gives the order to kill all Mudokons. All that is left is to make it through the final section, save the last Mudokon and fry the entire Gluckon corporate command. Now we find out how Abe got into his predicament in the first place. He's knocked out and taken to a chamber where he's made to hang by his hands. Your fate will be decided by your actions in the game. If you save enough Mudokons, your green homies will come through and save the day. If you decide to be an arsehole, you're fucked. The Abe games have some of the most incredible sound designs that I've ever heard in a game. Every zone has its own unique and distinct music which perfectly matches the visuals of each area. The sounds are amazing. Taking control of sligs, dispensing bombs from a bomb machine, pulling a lever. There's so much love and attention to detail in everything. You can hear where a slig is from the stereo sound system, and even where a slig is off screen from the change in volume. The sound design is so impressive that it's even been completed by a blind person using sound alone to navigate the game. I know I've just told you about how amazing this game is and why you should play it, but words just can't do it justice. It truly is a piece of art and can only be properly experienced through the medium it was intended for, which is you playing it. It still holds up amazing over 2 decades after release. Sure, the graphics are low resolution compared to today's games, but because most of the game is pre-rendered and it was designed with a cinematic experience in mind, it's still just fine on the eyes. In summary, it's the greatest platformer game I have ever played. Its theme, settings, story and gameplay are unmatched, and it's a unique experience. Everything comes together in the most incredible way, and it's a joy to come back and back again every few years to complete this one. If you've never heard of the Abe games before in this video, please do me a favour and go get this game and play through it. I promise you it's nothing like you've ever played before, and if you love weird, otherworldly places, you'll love this one. If it's the case that you played this game all the way back on the original PlayStation but never finished it, you need to go back to Rupture Farms and save all 99 Mudokons, as they've been waiting on you since 1997. I hope I've convinced you to play the Abe games. If I haven't, fuck, what an idiot. But hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.